Welcome to our channel. Today, we are diving deep into the fascinating world of chrononutrition. We often focus exclusively on what we eat, the calories, the macros, the nutrients, but a growing body of medical research suggests that when we eat might be just as important for our long-term health and metabolic success.
That is exactly right, Jane. We call this the meal timing matrix. It is essentially the intersection between our internal circadian rhythms and our external nutritional intake. Your body is not a static machine that processes energy the same way 24 hours a day. It is a highly rhythmic biological system.
It is incredible to think that our cells have their own clocks. I think most people are familiar with the idea of a sleep-wake cycle, but the concept that our metabolism also follows a strict schedule is a game changer for anyone trying to manage their weight or improve their energy levels.
Precisely. Every organ has a peripheral clock. While the brain has the master clock, known as the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the liver, pancreas, and adipose tissue have their own timing mechanisms. When we eat out of sync with these clocks, we create a state of metabolic disharmony that can lead to disease.
So, the meal timing matrix is about aligning our food intake with these internal rhythms. Let us start with the big one, insulin sensitivity. We have heard that our bodies handle sugar differently depending on the time of day. Is there really a morning advantage for processing carbohydrates?
There absolutely is. Human insulin sensitivity follows a very distinct circadian pattern, peaking in the morning and early afternoon. As the sun goes down and our body prepares for rest, our ability to clear glucose from the blood decreases significantly, making late-night meals much more taxing on the metabolic system.
That explains why a late-night bowl of pasta feels so different than the same meal at lunch. If our insulin sensitivity is lower at night, does that mean the body is more likely to store those calories as fat rather than using them for immediate energy or glycogen storage?
You hit the nail on the head. When insulin sensitivity is low, the body has to secrete more insulin to move the same amount of glucose. High insulin levels are a signal to the body to stop burning fat and start storing it. Nighttime eating essentially locks the door to your fat stores.
That is a powerful visual. Now, let us talk about the hormones that control our appetite, ghrelin and leptin. I know these are the hunger and fullness hormones, but how does the timing of our meals influence their production throughout the day and night?
Ghrelin, the hunger hormone, usually rises before our scheduled mealtimes. However, if we eat late into the night, we disrupt the natural rhythm of leptin, our satiety hormone. Normally, leptin should rise during sleep to suppress hunger, but late eating can cause leptin resistance, leaving you hungry the next morning.
So, by eating late, we are essentially setting ourselves up to be hungrier the next day. It sounds like a vicious cycle where we are fighting our own biology just to feel satisfied. How does cortisol fit into this hormonal mix, especially in the early morning hours?
Cortisol is fascinating because it peaks right as we wake up. This is the cortisol awakening response. Cortisol naturally raises blood sugar to give us energy to start the day. If we skip breakfast entirely while cortisol is high, some people might experience a prolonged catabolic state or erratic hunger later.
It seems like the morning is a high activity zone for our hormones. We have high cortisol to wake us up and high insulin sensitivity to process fuel. Does this mean that the breakfast like a king advice is actually supported by the meal timing matrix?
In many ways, yes. Large-scale studies have shown that individuals who consume the majority of their calories in the first half of the day tend to have better weight loss outcomes and lower markers of inflammation than those who eat the same calories but skewed toward the evening.
That brings us to the concept of metabolic flexibility. We want our bodies to be able to switch between burning glucose and burning fat efficiently. How does the timing of our eating window help us achieve that flexibility? Or does it hinder it if we eat all day?
Metabolic flexibility is the holy grail of health. To achieve it, we need periods where insulin is low so that the hormone glucagon can take over. Glucagon is the mobilizer. It tells the body to tap into stored fat and glycogen. If we're constantly eating, glucagon never gets a chance to work.
So, glucagon is basically the opposite of insulin. While insulin is the storage hormone, glucagon is the burning hormone. If we are eating from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., we are basically keeping the burning hormone suppressed for 16 hours a day.
Exactly. By narrowing that eating window, what we call time-restricted feeding, we allow insulin levels to drop low enough for glucagon to stay active for a longer duration. This encourages the body to become efficient at burning body fat for fuel, which is the definition of metabolic flexibility.
This is why the meal timing matrix is so effective. It is not just about the fast. It is about when that fast occurs. I have read that fasting overnight is much more beneficial than fasting in the morning. Why does the timing of the window matter so much?
It goes back to the circadian rhythm of the pancreas. Our beta cells, which produce insulin, are actually less responsive at night. If you eat during the biological night, your pancreas has to work much harder, which can lead to beta cell exhaustion over many years, potentially leading to type 2 diabetes.
That is a sobering thought. We are literally wearing out our organs by eating when they are supposed to be offline or in maintenance mode. Is this related to autophagy, the cellular cleanup process? Does that also follow a timer within the meal timing matrix?
Absolutely. Autophagy is significantly more active during our sleep and fasting states. When we eat late, we delay the onset of this vital cleanup process. By finishing our meals earlier in the evening, we give our body a head start on repairing damaged proteins and cleaning out cellular waste.
It sounds like our modern lifestyle, with bright lights and 24/7 food access, is a direct assault on the meal timing matrix. We are essentially living in a state of perpetual biological noon, where our bodies never get the signal that it is time to rest and repair.
That is a great way to put it. This circadian mismatch is a primary driver of the modern metabolic syndrome epidemic. When our internal clocks say sleep, but our behavior says eat, the resulting hormonal chaos causes systemic inflammation and increased storage of visceral fat around our organs.
Visceral fat is the most dangerous kind, right? It is the fat that is metabolically active and inflammatory. So by simply shifting our meal times earlier, we might be able to target that specific type of fat more effectively than through calorie restriction alone.
The research suggests so. In studies where participants ate the same calories but in an earlier window, they lost significantly more visceral fat. This is because they aligned their peak insulin sensitivity with their peak caloric intake, minimizing the time insulin spent at high levels in the blood.
What about muscle mass? Some people worry that if they don't eat right before bed, they will lose muscle. Does the meal timing matrix account for protein synthesis, or is that a separate system entirely?
Growth hormone actually peaks during the first few hours of deep sleep. Interestingly, having high insulin levels from a late meal can actually suppress the natural release of growth hormone. So eating late might actually be counterproductive for muscle repair and fat metabolism during the night.
Wow, so the late-night protein shake might actually be blocking the very growth hormone you need to build that muscle. It seems like every way we look at it, the evening should be a time for tapering off rather than fueling up.
Exactly. Even our gut microbiome has a circadian rhythm. The bacteria in our digestive tract change their activity and composition throughout a 24-hour cycle. Feeding them at odd hours can disrupt the gut barrier and lead to issues like leaky gut and systemic low-grade inflammation.
It is fascinating that even our bacteria have a schedule. This really drives home the point that the meal timing matrix is a holistic system. It affects our brain, our organs, our hormones, and even our microscopic passengers. How can someone start implementing this today?
The easiest way to start is the sunlight rule. Try to eat your first meal shortly after the sun comes up and finish your last meal before or shortly after the sun goes down. Aiming for an 8 to 10 hour eating window during daylight hours is a great baseline.
That sounds manageable for most people. If sunset is at 6 p.m., finishing dinner by 7 p.m. isn't too extreme. But what about coffee? Many people use caffeine to bridge the gap in the morning. Does caffeine impact the meal timing matrix or the hormonal shifts we've discussed?
Black coffee generally doesn't break the metabolic fast in terms of insulin, but it can stimulate cortisol. If you are already very stressed, that morning coffee on an empty stomach might spike your blood sugar slightly via a cortisol-mediated pathway. It is something to monitor individually.
Good to know.
So the goal is to be mindful of our body's state. We want to eat when we are primed for processing and fast when we are primed for repair. This essentially turns our daily schedule into a powerful metabolic tool without even changing what is on the plate.
Exactly. It is about working with your biology instead of against it. When you master the meal timing matrix, you often find that cravings diminish because your ghrelin and leptin levels stabilize. You are no longer fighting a constant uphill battle against your own hunger signals.
That stability sounds like a dream for anyone who has struggled with yo-yo dieting. It is not just about willpower, it is about hormonal signaling. If the signals are clear, the behavior becomes much easier to maintain over the long term.
And that is the key to sustainable health. We are looking for lifestyle shifts that provide the most leverage. Shifting your eating window earlier is one of the highest leverage moves you can make for your metabolic health, often resulting in better sleep and improved energy levels.
It has been eye-opening to see how deeply the when affects the how of our metabolism. From insulin sensitivity in the morning to the repair work of autophagy at night, our bodies are truly designed to follow the rhythms of the natural world.
It is the ultimate biological synchronization. By respecting the meal timing matrix, we allow our hormones, our metabolism, and our cells to function at their peak. It is a simple concept with profound implications for how we live and age.
Thank you for joining us on this journey into the meal timing matrix. If you found this helpful, be sure to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the science of health. Remember, your body has a clock. It is time we started listening to it.